On today's episode of You Asked, should what you watch on your TV influence what type of TV you should buy? Thoughts on Samsung's The Frame versus the competition? And is it safe to let your TV run all night, every night? Welcome back to the channel. This is You Asked, the show where we answer your tech questions. If you've got something you want to know, send your question to youasked@digitaltrends.com. And don't forget to tune into the show to see if your question has been selected. Richard Walters has a good one that we've never gotten right off the bat. He asks, should what one streams defeat the choice for purchasing an OLED TV? We stream Hulu Live, Prime, Disney Plus, and Netflix. Are those good enough sources to justify an OLED? We can afford OLED, just double checking that it would even make sense. Hey Richard, that is interesting and certainly something that not a lot of people consider. I do think it matters. Some TVs can be overkill depending on how you use them, but to answer your question, yes, those are all great sources to justify OLED. But if you want to get the most out of that OLED TV and your streaming services, you'll probably need to be paying for the best plans that those streaming services have available. To start, because of how an OLED TV works, you will have a precise, clear picture full of contrast with deep blacks, even for lots of SDR content. That's standard dynamic range, the stuff you watch on live TV, sports, or anything not labeled HDR, which is high dynamic range. I'd also say that most OLED TVs, especially a lot of them that we discuss on this channel, do a great job with upscaling. Sony, LG, Samsung, Panasonic, all of their higher tier TVs can work magic and take low quality content and make it look great on the TV. But for streaming and getting the most out of an OLED TV, unfortunately, that costs more for some services. For example, the standard plans from Netflix, with and without ads, only support 1080p Full HD. To get 4K streaming with HDR, you need their premium plan. I do think Prime and Disney Plus, however, allow 4K streaming and HDR with all of their plans, which will look exceptional on an OLED TV. Point being, it 100% makes sense to go with an OLED for your use case. The main thing to think about is going to be how bright you need it to be and a few other factors. That's a topic for another video, which fortunately we have. Our take on best OLED TVs will get you pointed in the right direction, and I'll link it in the description. Freight Shaker Classic has a good variation of OLED versus mini LED. What's better for a bedroom TV that gets left on all night, every night? OLED or mini LED, as far as burn-in and anything else that can happen from being on for so long each night? Well, if it must be on all night, every night, to be safe, I'd go with a mini LED TV. Depending on what you're watching, if there are static logos on the TV, I think burn-in could be an issue. Even with some of the OLED care features these days, that can mitigate that risk. But even with a mini LED TV, I'd recommend doing something to limit the wear and tear on the TV. If no one's watching the TV and it's just on in the background because it helps you sleep, it's a good idea to turn on a power saving feature that will lower the brightness after a set amount of time. Honestly, if you're not going to notice that it's off, maybe even set the TV to turn off altogether with that power saving feature. While burn-in isn't a big risk with a mini LED TV, if it's a TV that you would want to last for a while, limiting the brightness output will expand its life and keep the backlight from wearing out. I mean, this all depends on the TV and its quality to a certain extent, but it's just a good idea overall. Also, maybe don't get a super high-end TV if it's just going to run in the background. I guess I just have a few questions of my own on why the TV is left on all night, every night. Matt's question is up next. He says, I'm looking into putting an art frame TV into my living room. I'm looking at the Samsung frame, Hisense canvas, and the TCL version. I was hoping to get some insight between the models and what's the best value. Should I hold off on any updates as I will not be needing this until the new year when my house is built? So I haven't spent much time with the Hisense or TCL versions in person, but I have with the Samsung, and just looking at some of the comparisons, there are differences to consider. A big one is Samsung's One Connect box, which allows you to plug your inputs into a box that's separate from the TV and then run a single cable to the TV. In theory, and sometimes in practice, it provides a cleaner setup directly behind or beside the TV. It's a lot easier to hide one cable than 3 or 4 if you have several external devices to connect. However, with that One Connect box, now you have to have a designated space for that to live, plus have power for the box and the devices running into it. So there are still some logistics to think about. If your budget allows for it, there's a newer version, the Frame Pro, that features a wireless One Connect box that could help even more. Other than that, a lot between the models seems pretty similar. They're LED TVs with matte screens, and none of them have a local dimming feature. Samsung's option looks to be the brightest, but also significantly more expensive, and it doesn't have Dolby Vision, if that matters to you, because no Samsung TV has Dolby Vision. So all in all, like you mentioned, I do think it's a good idea to wait with CES coming up if you're watching this video in December 2025. Even if nothing new catches your eye, there's a good chance that the current models will be discounted as we get into 2026. Not to mention, while Hisense and TCL's offerings in this category seem to be lacking right now, they usually play catch up pretty quickly and at a cheaper price, if they do actually have something newer on the way in terms of art style TVs. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you did find this video helpful, do drop it a like so it can find its way to others. If you can help, please do weigh in on some of these questions in the comments, especially if you own any of these products or have come across some of these issues. Get those questions into youasked@digitaltrends.com if you want to see them featured on the show, and we'll see you again soon. Elevate your smartphone with the Digital Trends app bundle. 17 premium apps in one plan. From productivity to entertainment, it's all here. Start your free trial today by clicking the link in the description.